Hello and welcome to an episode of Atomic Vinyl Reviews. At least I assume it's Atomic Vinyl Reviews, because for those of you who are unaware, I do happen to have a couple of different YouTube channels on different topics, and sometimes when I do unboxing videos, I'm not entirely sure what I've got in the box. I've got a fair idea what's in here. I'm a little bit unsure because the postage label says it came from like somewhere in Australia, but judging by the box, I'm assuming it came from somewhere in America, because we don't have freaking Walmart here. So that leads me to believe it's probably something Godzilla related. Let's take a look. So yeah, unboxing video today, if I didn't make that as clear as I could have. And I'm pretty keen to see what's in here, because we've had some pretty cool unboxing days recently. So slice and dice, as we always do, with a little trusty scalpel knife. Hopefully not damaging anything inside the box itself, obviously. Okay. Slice around here. This is a really huge box, by the way, which is another reason I was a little confused. What could be in here? But I think I know. Okay. There we go. Oh, nice. Nice. Okay. Well, I'm gonna put this box down because it's just too big, but I'll just quickly show you. Got some bubble wraps. And in here, oh man. I've got the box down here, so sorry it's gonna be out of view for a bit, but what I did recently is I finally gave in and I bought some of those Jakks Pacific King of the Monsters figures from the 2019 movie. We don't have them here in Australia. They were only available overseas, over in the US pretty much, and eventually I found this one auction where they were selling a bunch of them in a big package basically, and I was like, you know what, I'll just go for it, because it was a bit pricey, but to even get one of these things is really pricey when you consider postage and stuff, so it's just better to get a whole bunch in one go. And yeah, this guy right here is what I was after. This is the figure that I've been wanting ever since I saw that Jakks Pacific were releasing these figures. I even messaged them on Facebook being like, yo guys, are you gonna release these in Australia or what? And they were like, nah. And so I was a bit disappointed. But finally, finally I've got this thing. Way at a way higher price than it should be, but look at that. There we've got the Godzilla, King of the Monsters Godzilla. I forgot the scale of this figure, but just the large version of this guy, and man, they did a fairly shitty job on the paint on his lower jaw of his teeth. But we'll look at that a bit more closely later. Let's just pull all of these guys out. So we got lots of this silly string bubble wrap. Ah, yes. Okay. We got ourselves a King Ghidorah figure. So this is the King Ghidorah little battle set. He's got his little building that you break. Very similar to those sorts of figures that we got for the 2014 Godzilla movie. Very similar to that. Yeah, really cool. I like the little buildings he comes with. He even comes with a little helicopter thing, which is nowhere near to scale. And, you know, not the best version of this King Ghidorah, especially for somebody who does have the, if you look up, way up back behind me, there's the Monster Arts version, but, you know, I like variety, so it's always good to get something like this. And what else? Two more things. Rodan. Very similar battle pack to that King Ghidorah, but they just replaced King Ghidorah with Rodan. Looking very cool. Nice big Rodan too. This one's actually probably bigger than both the Monster Arts and the NECA figure, or very close in size, but you know, roughly about that same size, with a pretty big wingspan. I was actually waiting for this guy to arrive, and this next one here. So yeah, here's like a little mini battle pack with Rodan and Godzilla. Looking very cool there. So these ones are more in scale with this King Ghidorah, I think. So this is a nice smaller one. Got like a little backdrop from like the weird Atlantis world that Godzilla lived, which is interesting. Doesn't quite look like anything we've seen in the film necessarily, but... Oh no, that's not the Atlantis. What am I talking about? That's the volcano that Rodan broke out of in the middle of Mexico somewhere on the island. Oh, nice. Now, I'm actually kind of on the fence whether I'm going to open up all of these, because honestly, this little pack here and the King Ghidorah one, I kind of would prefer to just leave closed, because these were just genuinely just kind of like bonuses, because really I just wanted to get this thing, but it was just too expensive to actually ship it here and have it worth getting this on its own, so that's why I got all of these extra ones with it, just because the figures themselves are pretty cheap. It's the postage that was freaking expensive. Like, the postage costs a lot more than the figures. But, it was the best I could do. So, I'm not sure. I could keep Godzilla, this little Godzilla and this little Rodan in their box for now. Perhaps if I feel like doing a full review, I'll take them out and then, you know, give you guys a little bit of a review of... Oh, shut up, phone. Sorry about that. My phone's going off. eBay's telling me something. Probably that this arrived, I guess. But yeah, I think I'm going to keep this one closed, but well, we can give you guys a nice look at it there. Got the little Godzilla here. You can see the reflection out my window there. Sorry about the glare. You see a little Godzilla with his nice blue painted spines, and a little itty bitty Rodan looking really demonic flying up there, and the little backdrop cards with this little pack. And yeah, let's take a look at the back of it just real quick. Now we got a pretty good look at what's in here all put together, and then we have all this writing stuff about the film and all that stuff. 65th Godzilla, where is it, down this side thing there, all the good stuff. And yeah, so I'll open up these two, but this guy here, do the same thing where I'll just kind of show you what he looks like. There we go. You can see our nice little King Ghidorah in there, looking about as detailed as the Bandai vinyl version of him, even less so. Not the best figure of him, but we got these cool little buildings, so if I want some buildings to like mess around with, I got these. But I kind of prefer to keep this guy, again, just as like a collectible figure from, you know, just to kind of have a little collector's piece of memorabilia from the film. And there we got a... Oh, it's really cool. They actually painted in bright gold in this photo here, which is completely different to all the other pictures, which is odd. And around the sides, we got little pictures of the other packs. So we got that Rodan, and this side doesn't have anything. We don't have a Mothra with any of these, which is interesting. So no Mothra, sadly, but that's okay. So I'll just put that guy down, and we can actually get to the figures that I do want to open up today. Now, the reason I want to open this one up is because, look at him, he's freaking gorgeous. And the reason I want to open up this Rodan here is because I was actually waiting for this pack of figures to arrive before I did my full review of the Mothra and Rodan SH Monster Arts pack, because I wanted this guy, this Jakks Pacific Rodan, to compare to the Monster Arts and NECA Rodan figures. So here's the Monster Arts one. We'll compare them once I you know, take this guy out of the box and stuff like that, and then again in that future video where I'll actually review the Monster Arts figures, we'll compare this guy to that one as well, just because I want to, you know, have all the figures there available that I actually am planning on having within that review, you know. So yeah, we'll open this guy up last. Kind of dig into this guy first, because he's the main attraction here, the star of this set, a really big Godzilla figure. So how are we gonna free him? Let's see how he's attached. Looks like he's got I don't want to destroy the box if I can help it. So he does have zip ties around his lower spines on his body, where his body kind of cuts off there. Maybe we can just loosen him and just pull that off. Is there a means to do this without obliterating them? It's also cool, he's got the same sort of watery background, oceanic background as the NECA figures do of this Godzilla, so that's kind of cool. All the merch kind of like fits the same theme. There we go. So yeah, I didn't end up cutting the zip ties, I just ended up kind of pulling them out. It did end up working. Yeah, so far so good. Look at this dude. It's also got the screw holes around the back here, which kind of unfortunate. The same thing you got on the other giant Jakks Pacific figure that came out for the 2014 film. They re-released it for this film. Didn't change the spines though, so I was not interested. Because I already own that figure, but it's in storage, so I'm not going to compare them. Now, I've just got to figure out how to get this clamshell kind of bit of plastic off of the cardboard here, just to get his tail out, because it is in segmented pieces, so by the looks of it, I'm just going to have to kind of tear it off the cardboard. So, sorry about this cardboard, it's nothing personal, but we need this tail. There we go, one chunk of tail. 2 chunks of tail. Very good. Okay, so his box is somewhat intact. Very similar box also to some of the Bandai King Series figures, which I actually have the Bandai King Series Godzilla 2019 figure, which I thought would be a perfect comparison to this guy because they're on a similar scale. I've also got the NECA, the huge 2014 one. We'll compare them to in a second, but let's just pull that aside and then we'll put them together. So I'm assuming you just kind of stuff it in. Hopefully this won't need a hairdryer. This is okay. There we go. Fairly tough squeeze on this. So there we go. Feels again very similar to the tail of the big giant Jakks Pacific Godzilla. I say I have it. It's just in the cupboard and like it's a bit of a pain to go get it out. It's a huge figure, so I don't really have it out all that much. Just because, you know, I like to rotate which figures I do have on display, and that's one of the ones that's currently kind of hidden. So now we're just gonna stuff this in. There we go, fairly simple. And look at that. Nice tail on this guy. It doesn't really articulate, which is a bit of a shame. But also I'm glad, you know, that it doesn't have like really obvious joints that like would make it articulate or anything. But for what it is, pretty cool. This guy's really big, actually. I like the size of this thing. He's really chunky, and you can definitely see the design elements that they changed on this guy compared to the 2014 version really look a lot better, I'd say, in figure form than the 2014 versions. Because he's got these massive claws on his feet, which look so much better than like the the 2014 ones. I'll just bring in the big NECA figure. Jeez, heavy. Okay. Here we got the 2014 Godzilla, and here we got the new and improved 2019 one. And you can see that they scale up fairly close. The funny thing is, this NECA 2014 one, he seems a lot slimmer, whereas this guy, he's a lot more sort of bulky and round, which is somewhat accurate to the film, but at the same time, height-wise, the 2014 one here is a little bit taller than NECA figure. Whereas this one should be a tiny bit taller than this guy. But again, these figures are not built to scale up with each other or anything. They're built by different companies. But they're pretty close as far as these figures go. Part of me is actually tempted to take the spines off of this guy and put them on the 2014. But that'll be a bit of an intense project, and I don't really want to wreck the 2014 here. But yeah, very, very cool. There you got a kind of a nice comparison between the two. Obviously the detailing is so much better on the NECA figure. This figure is just phenomenal. Like, I'm less fond of this design, but this is just one of my favorite figures as just like a well-made figure. I love this thing. And you know, where's the button? Oh shit. Ah, I don't know if you can hear that. He's meant to roar. That used to work. I don't know why it's not working. Maybe I hope it's just the battery. But oh well. So yeah, let's take a good look at this guy. I'll kind of bring him in. We can get a nice macro look at him. There you go. You can see all his nice details. I really like the kind of the sculpt on this guy. Again, it's not very well detailed. It looks like it was just kind of like 3D printed and like everything was rounded out a little bit, and you can definitely see a loss of detail. So he looks a lot less hand sculpted and a lot more sort of like 3D printed, if that makes sense. I don't know how to really describe it, but that's just kind of a common thing with all these Jakks Pacific figures here. So I'm just looking over to my right, your left. I'm just looking at the monitor to make sure he's in focus, because I've got a monitor seeing everything that I'm filming right now. Then we got his nice spines. I really love the redesign of these spines. They're so much cooler than the 2014 ones. A lot more inspired by the classic original 54 Godzilla. Really turned out really cool in this figure. Got his legs here. If you have any of the other Jakks Pacific Godzillas, then you pretty much know like what this guy's gonna be like. But it's just really cool to have him in hand. I've seen a lot of photos of this guy going around, and he seems to be a really cool version, again, of this Godzilla. Just a really cool figure. Like, fairly, again, feels fairly cheaply made, and the details are somewhat lacking. You've even got little issues like the paintwork on the teeth's not that great, but his teeth are a lot sharper looking and more visible than the 2014 version as well, which is really cool. Nice snout there, little eyes. Paintwork on some of these eyes isn't that great. Like this one on this side looks good though. A little bit of dry brushing around the chest, looks pretty nice. Hands came out really well as well. Not much articulation on him, just legs just kind of lift up and back, and his arms do the same thing. So very, very simple static figure, but a really, really cool figure. Proportionally, he feels pretty accurate, looking really nice. There we go. Big tail. Let's quickly compare this guy to the Jakks, not the Jakks, the this is the Jakks, the Bandai King Series. So here is the Bandai King Series Godzilla 2019 figure. I love this figure. A very good representation of this kaiju. I think honestly, if this guy didn't have like the weird wonky tail that they did, and maybe if they made him a tiny bit bigger, this would definitely be the superior figure. Just because the detail work on this Bandai is phenomenal. So let's just, I know it's we're meant to be reviewing that other figure, but let's just kind of look at the Bandai just to compare. Like they put a lot more detail work into the scale work. Again, it has that 3D printed sort of look to it where the sculpt looks a little bit less hand sculpted, and just the way the details are kind of fading in and out of the rest of the sculpt does make him look a little bit more like he's, printed out of a computer, basically. That's the vibe I get from these sort of figures. But the detail work is really nice, though. A lot more of it, like the scaling on his legs in particular and all that sort of stuff, and on his arms, around his face, a lot more crisp. And then we got his little scrunched up tail, which again isn't bad, but I'd prefer if he had a much longer, more elegantly stretched out tail. But yeah, let's compare the two. Let's see how they scale up first of all. So here we got both our figures. This guy, the Bandai is pretty large. He's not as big as some of the other King Series figures at all, but he does kind of, he's a big figure regardless. His spines are actually really huge as well. Even compared to this one's, they're almost the same scale, which is kind of weird. But he is smaller. And from the side, yeah, look at them. Good figures. Both of these are really nice figures, and I'm happy to have them in my collection. Yeah, I really like this guy. Cheap, fairly sort of cheap toy-like figure, but well made for a cheap toy-like figure. Like like the next step up from something like this would be something like the Bandai or the NECA. Those ones have better details and feel a little bit better made. But this guy, just loved the size and the proportions of him, and like just the big claws look really menacing. It's nice spines. Another complaint I would have about this guy, if I had to, nitpick, is again the paintwork is very minimalistic. It is sort of true to the character though, but at the same time, it would be cool to see some more dry brushing all over him to help bring out those limited scaling details that he does have. And especially the spines look very sort of bland. And the spines are actually made of a slightly softer plastic, so they do somewhat bend. Not too much, which I also like. They're kind of firm, but like, they are made of the same plastic, I'd say, as like a NECA figure or something like that. But the bigger one here is a bit more firm. But some of these, okay, yeah, that's cool. I like that. So yeah, this one I'm happy with. This one was was the one that I really wanted for a long time, and I kept seeing people like buying them, like putting up posts saying they bought them for like $20 from Walmart or Target or wherever the hell they buy them in the US. And I was just like looking at that being like, I wish we had them in my country. God damn it, Australia, what's wrong with you? And yeah, now I got it, so I don't have to be like that no more. Anyway, let's talk about Rodan here. So this is Jakks Pacific Rodan battle pack, whatever you want to call it. Got the got like the jet in there. What was it called? The Argo? Is that the Argo? There's like the jet there. I thought the Argo was a bit bigger though, and then there's one of the other little helicopter things, and that one looks huge. So scaling not the best on these things. Again, these are like play packs for children, so they're not really collector's pieces. So I'm not going to be overly nitpicky, but let's see how we can open this with causing the least amount of destruction. Ironically, despite this being like a destruction pack or something like that. Let me get my little scalpel. We'll slice this accordingly, and yeah, just leave that off. And look at that. Okay, so I'm assuming this will just slide. Shut up, phone. I'm assuming this will just slide out. There we go. Yeah, that was easy peasy. We can get rid of that. Now, I'm gonna definitely keep my boxes from these things because I always keep my boxes. I feel like the box, you know, I'm not one of those people who generally keep their figures in the box and all that stuff. I like to have them out of the box, but I do want to have the box because that's like 90% of like the appeal of keeping a figure on the box for resale value is just having the box on hand. So if you keep it in good condition and you can always put it back in, that's still a lot better than, you know, nothing. I like the way this building here actually, with the smash details, they kind of like have it already like in the smashing pose in the packaging. That's a really cool little detail there. I like that. Yeah, nice details on these. I'm assuming they're going to be hollow from the back, which I can already kind of feel that they are. Let's have a look. Yeah, they are. I'm gonna actually leave these buildings in here. All I want is Rodan. So just break Rodan's little chains here. There we go. Okay. This guy actually feels pretty nice because he is made of like a fairly solid feeling plastic. Almost a bit rubberized as well. Not quite as much as the spines on that Godzilla there, but whoops. His center of gravity is a bit off on this guy. Really weird. Very sort of rounded wing shape to him, so I really like the feeling of these wings. They're kind of a lot more curved than, say, our Monster Arts and our NECA figures, which I'll just quickly bring in. So this is our Monster Arts next to this guy. Monster Arts being, of course, the most accurate and one of the best figures of this Rodan. And they scale pretty close. This guy, I'm assuming, is going to scale a bit better with our NECA figure, because he's a tiny bit smaller. So here's our NECA figure, and yeah, this guy sits about in between the two. So that's really interesting. Alright, that's cool. The detailing on him has the same sort of issues that I have with the Godzilla. His detailing is kind of... on his wings it's pretty good, but it lacks some of that crispness that we see with some of the other figures. And also the paintwork on his eyes looks pretty goofy, and that expression is just hilarious. He's also, you know, he feels... I like the feeling of this guy, but he looks very cheaply made at the same time. But I do like the detailing on his wings here, because it is a little bit more consistent feeling than some of the details on that Godzilla. So I wish the scaling on that Godzilla was a little bit more akin to this sort of lava, crusted over lava texture that Rodan has on his wings here, because that actually is pretty nice. Pretty nice. Got that sort of really vulture-like shape of this Rodan, because he was very inspired by vultures, which is pretty interesting. It comes through really nicely for this figure. The proportions are also a little bit weird looking on this figure as opposed to some of the other ones. It's not that much off, it just looks a little bit weird, like his waist looks really thin and stretched out compared to some of those other versions. But yeah, pretty cool, pretty cool. like his little horns. I really loved this version of Rodan in the movie. It was one of the best parts of the movie, seeing Rodan escaping from the volcano and that chase with the Argo. That was so cool. Also one of the only daylight scenes with the kaiju as well. But yeah, I really love this redesign. They kept him very faithful, which is so good. Probably one of my favorite MonsterVerse kaijus, actually. This guy, I think, came out pretty much perfect. Also really happy with how Ghidorah came out in the film as well. But this Rodan was just really awesome. So yeah, great to see this figure. I'd also bring in the Bandai to compare him to, but the Bandai's like so stylized that it's probably not even worth it at this point. I might compare him when I do the Monster Arts review. Well, we can just compare their faces actually. So there's the Monster Arts face, and here's our Jakks Pacific face. So you can see the difference. One looks like this. Oh dear God, like a piece of beef jerky turkey, and one looks like this, like a big, beautiful, epic Rodan monster demon. Again, I'm kind of sorry that the video is kind of all over the place. I'm just shoving things into the camera and just like moving back and forth. It's just don't have much space at the moment. I really need to kind of work on clearing it out and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I do recommend this figure in particular. This one's so cool. You can actually compare him to your standard NECA figure, just to give you guys some size comparison and stuff as well. I really hope I can get like a 30 centimeter King of the Monsters 2019 Godzilla from X Plus. That way I'd love to compare these two. But for the time being, this guy's going to be my stand-in for that. So yeah, really happy with this and all the other figures here. I might do a video on those other ones I haven't opened if I feel so inclined. I probably won't. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, that is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for checking it out, and may all your vinyl be irradiated vinyl. Over and out!